Back to County Clare and more importantly to Cuimhneamh on Chláir, talk about memories of animal health care over the years. This will explore traditional medical cures for farm animals and much, much more, and bring you all the way up to the present day to modern veterinary practice. For more on this, we are joined on the line by Dr John Flaherty. John, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks a million, Daragh, and good morning to your listeners.
John, could you tell us about this talk, Memories of Animal Health Care from County Clare? And you're a historian and farmer, so you've got quite a lot of, I suppose, qualifications under your belt there. And this certainly seems like it's going to be very interesting.
Definitely, Daragh. Yeah, I suppose I got involved in this because I met Paula O'Carroll at a conference in Limerick last year, and I suppose Paula didn't know that I had done 20 interviews with farmers and vets in Limerick just over a decade ago, about 2013, 2014, around that time. So I was telling Paula about this, and she said, "Geez, we'd love to get our hands on these interviews." So I said, "Absolutely," and she said, "Would you like to do a talk in conjunction with it?" No, I've done talks on this subject before, obviously, but this is going to be really special because this is the first time that I suppose that I'm going to be. It will be illustrated by the voices of those farmers and vets from my recordings, and I'll have people like the wonderful Catherine Talty, who I interviewed at 96 years of age, John Joe Conway, Michael Joe McMahon, and then 5 or 6 vets as well. So I have about maybe 2 minutes from each, just to, I suppose, illustrate my story. What my story is, I suppose, is my thesis explored the evolution of Irish veterinary practice, basically from 1700 up until the 1950s, and especially with regards to cattle practice, because, as you just said there, I'm a farmer myself. I'm just with cattle now. I was a former dairy farmer. And I suppose what I found, Daragh, which was a lot of people probably won't know, is that it wasn't really until the 1940s or the 1950s that the veterinary surgeon became established on Irish farms. Up until then, the vets were basically horse doctors. So they would have been going around. A lot of them, including a man called PJ Patrick Howard, who was based in Ennis, were actually buying horses, checking horses for soundness before they'd be sent on to their clients. So basically, then the other reasons, I suppose, were vets were seen as being expensive, and anyway, they just simply weren't there. So when it came down to that, the local farmers were totally dependent on traditional practices and traditional practitioners.
Yeah. And John, I think it's so interesting there as well that you have those recordings, because obviously this is talking about how healthcare for animals has evolved over the generations. Thankfully now we've got modern machinery and devices, and I suppose much more modern research that will help us diagnose things and heal animals
absolutely
faster. But I'm sure you have a rare or rogue story in there from some farmer you've met over the years who has just, like the Irish thing of frying 7 up in a pan, that there's just some cure that is unexplainable that probably works every time.
I don't know if it seems to, I suppose one of the ones there which is very popular that I came across, a lot of the older people were talking about, was this condition called the Ruher paste. You know, the Ruher paste translates as the raid or the onset of the worm. And it was used to describe complaints of the stomach, especially in young calves. They might be kicking at the belly, and this sort of epitomize the symptoms of the condition. It was basically colic, Daragh, and I suppose when the young cows, when the separated milk came off from the creamery, they were being fed large quantities, and then they ended up suffering from colic. And one of the cures which is used for this, I suppose ordinarily they were treated with household items such as bread soda and turpentine. But all the older people spoke about this thing called the Slím na Péiste, which translated as the worm's knot. And what the procedure involved tying a knot on a piece of string over the affected animal and then loosing it with the sort of, I suppose, the instantaneous snap which the knot made possible. And the knot was basically a conjurer's trick, a form of the dissolving knot. But I think what was really interesting about this is the people had fundamental understanding that there was something going on in the animal's stomach. And the two things they thought there might be going on were, first of all, a blockage of some kind, and the other one was a knot in the gut. And the idea was that by the loosening this knot over the animal, you were also loosening the untangling this knot, or also the perceived knot in the gut, or also loosening whatever obstruction might be there. So a very interesting one. And it's actually Dr. Joe Kelleher, from the late Dr. Joe Kelleher from Ennis time, and was one of the people that told me about this. And there's a good old story there, which I'll leave to the next night, about Joe going out to a child, to look after a child who was sick, and this other guy arriving to do this knot over the animal. So a really strange cure. Look, I suppose to us today, these things look very sort of archaic, old-fashioned. Really, we can't really understand them. But I suppose to the people at that time and at that stage, the two things that were probably important to them were the belief in these things and also their faith. And I think they tried everything that was possible to cure an animal, and if the animal got well after these strange interventions, it was fantastic. If they didn't, they just saw that it was God's will that the animal died.
Yeah, which is just an incredible attitude, but a sign of the times as well.
Absolutely, signs of the times, yeah.
And John, I know there's just some brilliant stories out there, and we hear them occasionally, and I'd appeal to any listeners who have just their tales of the animal that got the miracle cure, or something that you tried, even for someone who was sick at home. Please do send them in to us on 086 1800 964. But in your lifetime of being a vet and still being a vet, John, what sort of things have you been called to? You must have some just amazing tales from down.
No, sorry, Darragh, I'm not a vet. I'm a historian and farmer.
You're a historian. Oh, sorry, John. Well, I suppose as a farmer with deep animal healthcare knowledge, what things have you witnessed or been called to over the years?
Well, I suppose what a lot of people would be really interested here is maybe some of the botanicals and the pharmacology of all that kind of stuff. And being a farmer and being a dairy farmer in the day, what was really prevalent this time of the year was scouring calves. All the calves had been born and they were quite young, probably drinking too much milk and things, and they started scouring. And I suppose some very interesting things used, and these would all have a scientific basis. And one that was used often was alcohol, especially a locally produced poachine. And this was widely used as a stimulant in treating scour. I suppose it had astringent properties and warmed the young animal's system. Scouring was also interestingly treated with locally sourced plants and herbs. Teas made from tea leaves, briar roots, oak bark or hay were administered as scour treatments. And interestingly, the common component with these were naturally occurring tannins, which 20th century scientific studies have identified as having astringent and anti-inflammatory properties in the gastroenteric tract, and also inflammation of the bowel is relieved by infusions of willow bark, which anyone who has an interest in this and knows had attributes associated with aspirin. So very interesting, some of these cures definitely had a real scientific background to them.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And John, this event, do we need to buy tickets online or register, and where and when can we find it?
I understand from Paul, and just to say that Paul O'Carroll and the people in Cuimhneamh and Chláir are absolutely fantastic, and Paul has put a lot of work into this. So Paul has told me, I think, that you have to just make a booking. I think it's free of charge. And as I said, it's on next Thursday night in the old ground. Brilliant. At 7 o'clock. And Paula just said as well that anybody who would like any copies of the interviews, and by the way, I understand there are going to be a lot of family members here of the people that I interviewed, which I think will make it very special. And if anyone, Paula said, if anyone wants copies of the interviews, she'll send them on. They will eventually be online when she has cleared the queue that's already there, she said.
Yeah, and that's a lovely thing as well, because it's not just a great way for the youth to connect with the past generations, but also there's going to be a lot of people here that are going to hear whether it's their grandparents' voice again, their parents' voice again, and they'll be taken straight back to something that they loved and enjoyed when they're talking about their stories.
Absolutely. Well, I think Daragh, a lot of the people they mightn't have known that they did the interviews first. They might have been aware of something at the time, and they've probably completely forgotten it's 12 or 13 years ago. So I think it's going to be a really great night. And we're also hoping to have somebody in who might actually do the worms knot for us, the rope trick.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. And brilliant even to see a reenactment of that and what would
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, for sure. That does sound like a very fun evening indeed. That is Dr. John Flaherty, who will be delivering the talk titled Memories of Animal Healthcare from County Clare next Thursday in the Old Ground at 7. Don't be late. John, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
That was Dr. John Flaherty there talking about the upcoming Memories of Animal Healthcare talk that will be taking place in Clare next week. As you heard from John there, his interviews go back to people that have nearly 100 years of veterinary and farming practice in Clare and far, far beyond. So not just plenty of nostalgia for anybody turning up, and even a connection to their old relations and the generations. But surely if you're into your folklore and your good stories and your classic Irish encounters, you'll get plenty of them.